Hello friends, welcome to your own channel, that is Baijit's classes, and today I am going to cover the next two stanzas of the poem, that is Ode to a Nightingale. As I have already covered the first stanza, and students who have not seen that one, I am requesting you to please visit the channel and follow that video so that you can understand the poem better. So as I have already said that in the poem, John Keats looks upon the bird nightingale not as a mere bird of flesh and blood, rather as a bird who is the representative of an ideal world. And the poet is not satisfied with the world he lives in or he is living in. He rather wants to go to the world of the nightingale, which he thinks to be a representative of an ideal world, a world which is free from the pains, free from despondency, dejections and all that. So, in search of an ideal world, a world of absolute happiness, the poet wants to go to the world of the nightingale. And the poet is trying many an attempt here to go to the world of the nightingale. So let's begin the next stanza, that is stanza number 2. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of warm south, full of the true, the blushful hypocrine, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. So, oh, for a draught of vintage that has been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth. Here the poet makes an attempt that someone offers him a special kind of vintage or wine that had been cooled and preserved in a traditional way deep inside the earth, and which has the essence of the flora and country green of that particular place. Here the poet is actually making a direct reference to the wine of southern France. And there they just make, process and preserve the wine in a traditional way. They used to preserve the wine deep inside the earth, and for some special occasions only they used to bring them out from deep inside the earth, and then they used to drink from it. So the way, the process and the way of preservation of the wine has been described here is so interesting to note. So in order to go to the world of the nightingale, the poet wants such a wine, such a traditional wine, or such a wine that had been preserved in such a traditional way. He actually knows that naturally it's not possible for him to leave this world and to go to the world of the nightingale. So in order to go to the world of the nightingale, all he needs is to forget everything in this world. So in order to avoid the attractions of this world, the pullbacks of this world, he needs something that would make him forgetful to go to the world of the nightingale. That's why the poet makes here a demand to have such a wine, so that he can drink such a wine and can forget all his memories, all his pains and sufferings, whatever pains and sufferings, memories he has associated with this world, and so that he can find his journey comfortable enough by leaving this world and following the world as represented by the nightingale. So simply, in order to go to the world of the nightingale, The poet wants wine, or traditional wine, or wine that has been cooled traditionally, and that has the very essence of the flora. Flora means the wine that has been produced using the various flowers, using the various fruits produced in those areas or those countries. So he wants such a wine that has the essence of all the fruits and flowers that grow in those places. Dance and provencal song and sunburnt mirth. And here he has further described about the wine that is enjoyed, or that was enjoyed by the residents of those places of province during the special occasions, when they used to dance, when they used to dance to the tune of the traditional songs, when they used to dance under the sun or having the essence of the sun. So this is all about the wine and its intoxication that the poet is looking for here. So, oh, for a beaker full of the warm south. This is an example of imagery. What picture? The wine, which is in a beaker, and the beaker is full up to the brim with this wine, and this wine is not from an ordinary place. It's not an ordinary one. It was produced in the southern provinces of France. As we all know, more or less, that the southern provinces of France is so good at producing these traditional wines. So, full of the true, the blushful hypocrite, and this wine would have such a mesmerizing effect, as it has been described to have a kind of blessing in it, as Hippocrene, a fountain, is believed to have been produced by the blow of the hoof of Pegasus, and this water that used to come from the Hippocrene has a charming effect upon the people who used to drink from it, and that is believed to give inspiration to those who used to drink from this water. Here the poet also thinks that, the wine it would be equally blissful as that of the water from Hippocrene, and with beaded bubbles winking at the brim. So here the readers and you also need to imagine it, that you should think of a beaker which is full of wine up to the brim, and just because it's full of wine, so some of the drops of wine has come out of it, and they just stick to the outer side of the beaker. So we can easily imagine here that a beaker which is full of wine up to the brim, and some drops of wine or dew drops have appeared on the surface, around the surface of the beaker. So the way the poet has described the state of the wine in a beaker here is seems to be so realistic and so appealing, as if we can see it with our own eyes. So this is an example of imagery here and sensuousness. As I have already told you that Keats has achieved mastery in this craft of creating sensuousness through the very description of his poetry, or in his poetry. So this is an example of sensuousness, direct reference to his sensuousness. Okay, and purple stained mouth, and the poet says that it would be such a wine that when I would take it inside my mouth, or when I would just take a sip from this wine, my mouth would turn purple. It would turn my mouth purple. It refers to the very color the very hue or color or lustre of the wine. So here not only we can see the condition of the wine that fills the beaker, we can also see the color of it. So it refers to the sense of our touch, to the sense of our sight and all that. So this is an example of sensuousness, a very right example of it. And with thee fade away, that I might drink, and I would drink this wine, and that would help me to forget everything of this world and to leave the world unseen. So in order to go to the world of nightingale, in order to follow the nightingale, or in order to go to the world of the nightingale, the poet firstly will have to leave this world. So in order to leave this world, he is dissatisfied with, he wants to drink this wine, because at natural condition it won't be possible for the poet to avoid all the pullbacks of this world and go to the world of the nightingale. So he wants a kind of intoxication, here the wine, that would help him to forget the hardships and toils of this world, the pains of this world, the memories of this world, so that he finds it easier to go to the world of the nightingale. So the poet has clearly mentioned his purpose of drinking this wine, that I might drink, that he would drink, and he wants to leave this world unseen. He wants to leave this world at a unconscious condition, not at a conscious condition. And further, what he wants is to, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. He wants to get fade away into the deep forest with the nightingale. So the poet wants to leave this world unseen after taking this wine, and he wants to follow the world of the nightingale, and with the nightingale he wants to get lost into the deep forest, deep inside the forest. So what is the intention of the poet? What is his purpose? What does he want the wine for? All these answers are here in this stanza. Okay, now moving on to the next stanza. What he wants? Fade far away. I want to fade away far inside the deep forest. Then I want to get dissolved. Then I want to quite forget what thou amongst the leaves hast never known. The poet is saying that, oh, the bird nightingale, how lucky you are, that you are free from all the pains and sufferings and troubles and hardships and toils of this world. You are so free, you are so bold, you are so happy, because sadness, grief, melancholy, all these things have never touched you. You are free from so-called pains and sufferings. I also want to fly away with you. I want to go far away. I want to get fed far away by following you. Then I want to get dissolved in your world. Then I want to quite forget. Then I want to forget everything, whatever connection I have with the pains and sufferings and problems of this world. The pains and sufferings and problems you have nothing to do, which are unknown to you. So the bird nightingale is unacquainted with. So the bird nightingale has nothing to do with the worldly pains and sufferings. So the poet wants to follow the bird nightingale. He wants to get dissolved in the world of the nightingale. He wants to forget everything, every pain and sufferings which are unknown to the nightingale. So fade far away, dissolve and quite forget with thou among the leaves hast never known. Okay. So what is unknown to the bird nightingale here? The weariness, the fever and the freed. All the problems, sufferings, hardships, toils have been described here in a single line using 3 phrases here very importantly. The weariness, the fever and the freed. We the human beings, we have some sort of troubles, pains, sufferings, miseries, and the causes are the weariness or the fever or the freed. যদি বাংলায় বলতে হয় তাহলে যাবতীয় জরা, ব্যাধি, দুঃখ, কষ্ট, যন্ত্রণা এই সব কিছুকে এখানে এই একটি লাইনে কিডস খুব সুন্দর করে বেঁধেছেন। So all these 3 phrases, the weariness, the fever and the freed, actually stand for all the pains and sufferings and miseries human beings have to go through in this world, whether they want it or not. যাবতীয় দুঃখ, কষ্ট, জ্বালা, যন্ত্রণা, জরা, ব্যাধি যার মধ্যে দিয়ে মানুষকে যেতে হয়, মানুষ চাক বা না চাক, তাহলে এই সমস্ত পেনস অ্যান্ড সাফারিংসকে এখানে কবি খুব সুন্দরভাবে একটা লাইনের মাধ্যমে উপস্থাপন করেছেন। এবং দ্য পোয়েট also says that, asserts that the bird nightingale is all away from all these things. Okay. তাহলে এই জগৎ যেটা জ্বালা যন্ত্রণায়, যেখানে জ্বালা যন্ত্রণা, মৃত্যু, জরা, ব্যাধি, ক্ষয় রয়েছে, সেই জগতের সঙ্গে তোমার কোনো যোগাযোগ নেই। তো নাইটিঙ্গেল, আমি তোমার সেই জগতে চলে যেতে চাই, তোমার সঙ্গে গিয়ে হারিয়ে যেতে চাই, ভুলে যেতে চাই পৃথিবীর যাবতীয় স্মৃতি। ওকে, হিয়ার এই পৃথিবী যেটা জ্বালা যন্ত্রণায়, যেখানে জ্বালা যন্ত্রণা, দুঃখ কষ্ট রয়েছে। Furthermore, the poet has said, furthermore the poet has described the world as a place here where men sit and hear each other groan. বলছে এই পৃথিবী, in this the world where the human beings, they just sit and hear each other's tale of miseries or tales of misery and sufferings. That's so true, that so much pains and sufferings are there in our world, in the life of each and everyone, that whenever 2 human beings, they just sit, they often talk about the problems and sufferings they are going through or they are in the midst of, instead of talking about some good things. So it has been a common tendency for the human beings that whenever the human beings, they just come together, instead of talking about some happy things, happy moments, they rather talk about their personal sufferings and dejections. So the poet is so dissatisfied with the present state of this world. The world is all covered with the weariness, fever and freed, the problems, the sufferings of human beings, where men sit and hear each other making complaints against the problems and sufferings they are going through. The world has also been described as a place where pulses shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where the young people, they just die an untimely death, and the people with grey hair, they just last long. It is generally believed or supposed that the old people will die sooner and the young people would die later. But here we see the young people die earlier and the old people to survive. Where youth grows pale, spectra thin and dies. Where the young people, they grow old, their body becomes wizened. Yes, and they die untimely. In these lines, the poet is making a direct reference to the death of his own brother, Tom Keats, who died untimely because of tuberculosis. So the poem Ode to a Nightingale is very important, as in this poem, unlike Ode to Autumn, the poet has made so many references to his personal losses, dejections and all that. So these lines are very important, very, very important. Where but to think is to be full of sorrow. So wherever the line begins with the where here, understand very carefully. Each and every line here that begins with the word where, W-H-A-R-E, in that line the world has been described. So again, where but to think is to be full of sorrow. The poet has described the world as a place where if you start thinking about something, then instead of being happy, your thought would lead you to be sad. Where but to think is to be full of sorrow. The world has rather been described as a place where to think about anything is to be upset. That means the poet is not finding any ray of hope, any positivity here. And leaden eye despair. This is such a world. The world inhabited by us is such a world where there is much sorrow and sufferings that has made our eyes leaden. Our eyes have become heavier with tears, with despairs. We have much sufferings and despairs in our heart, and all these feelings of despair and despondency have made our eyes heavier. So when do our eyes become heavier? Whenever tears come in our eyes, we can't see anything. Yes. Where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes open. The world is such a world. This is such a world where our eyes becomes heavier with the tears, and these tears come from the despairs and dejections that we are going through. Where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes open, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. What the poet means to say is that in this world there is no place for beauty. Here beauty cannot survive. There is place for beauty, but there is no room for beauty. Beauty takes birth here, but beauty cannot survive. Here beauty cannot keep her eyes open. Keeping the eyes open stands for surviving, and closing the eyes is referring to the fact of passing away, that is death. So here beauty cannot keep her eyes open for a long time. A man who is alive keeps her eyes open. A man who is dead keeps her eyes closed. Whenever someone passes away, her eyes are closed. So the world is such a place where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes open. There beauty takes birth, but beauty cannot survive. Beauty soon closes her eyes. That means here by beauty the poet may mean youth, any beautiful object, any beautiful thing, any beautiful flower. Whatever is beautiful is transitory here, that dies an untimely death. Or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. And here a new love, a new relationship even does not last long. It takes birth today, it dies an untimely death tomorrow. Frequent relationships, frequent breakups. Yes. And I think whatever the poet has said here, we can relate our experiences to all these things. So that was the description of stanza number 2 and 3. Soon I would appear with the remaining stanzas. My humble request to all of the students and my dear friends to please subscribe the channel and subscribe it and share it with your other friends as well. Around 86% of the viewers, they watch the content but they don't subscribe. It's quite demotivating. Whenever you subscribe, it motivates me a lot. So please subscribe the channel and support me. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.